war over Māori water rights continues, but one small iwi has already won its battle. Ngāti Rangi, living in the shadow of Ruapehu, fought Genesis Energy for 10 years to get a water rights deal. So what will the state asset sell-off mean for its agreements, and are there lessons to learn for other iwi looking to negotiate? Carmen Parahi reports.
We no longer are able to practice that tradition of going to our awa for healing.
Those waterways are lost. Well, some of our people would describe it as being stolen.
Jay Wilson and Keith Wood are from Ngāti Rangi, a tribe that's lived in this area for hundreds of years.
There was a sacred Wahianoa not far from where we're standing, where our people would also perform special rituals here.
They're giving us rare access to visit their ancestral waterways and learn some of their traditions, referring to the rivers as queer or female elders.
So when we come to the awa here or any of our waterways, we always have a real karakia for ourselves, but also for our kuia, and to mihi to them, to acknowledge them, to splash some water on our faces, to hongi them, and to sometimes just to sit and be with them and appreciate and celebrate what they have to share with us.
Pristine water direct from the slopes of Ruapehu flow into many of the tributaries here, deep in the central North Island Karioi forest.
We belong to these waterways. We've had many centuries of whanaungatanga relationship with the waterways, and they have nurtured us and looked after us. So in kind we have to repay that respect and acknowledge that.
Both men say Ngāti Rangi is trying to continue their traditional practices on these waterways, but there's a major impediment.
We've lost that connection between our mountain and ourselves through the water being diverted here and into the Tongariro power system.
But the value of this water is different for Genesis Energy, holding the rights to divert the water for electricity.
You know, water's water when it comes to an electricity generation scheme, and it's about understanding the importance of that water in terms of other users of it and understand those values and to look for opportunities, I guess, to create some balance.
Using 22 of these types of water traps, Genesis Energy captures 26 south-flowing tributaries of Ruapehu. The water's sent east through the Wahianoa Aqueduct to the Moawhango Dam, then diverted north to power up to 25,000 households. The water's used by 11 power stations via Lake Taupo, the Waikato River and exits at Port Waikato.
We're losing part of our birthright. When our people come and see this, it kind of it rips at their spirit and their soul to have such a presence of a river, and then it's not there anymore.
So they fought back. For over a decade, Ngāti Rangi battled with Genesis Energy in the Environment Court, all the way to the Appeal Court to gain some protection for this water and acknowledgement of their rights here.
So yes, we have a whakapapa connection. Yes, it's our responsibility to connect to the wai, to protect the wai, to protect the land, to protect the mountain. But it's also us finding a way in this modern context to ensure that that protection is upheld.
The two parties negotiated an out-of-court settlement or mitigation package for 4 of the 26 waterways being captured by Genesis.
Which the kaupapa or the foundations behind that is maintaining a flow of water from the mountain to the sea. The bottom line for our people was they wanted water back.
This is the first compromise Genesis made. An agreed flow returning 15 litres of water per second on 2 rivers.
It's just about a token gesture of water. That's what we understand that to be.
You know, in some ways it's small, but it's significant in terms of what Genesis Energy's been able to provide at this stage.
Tracy Hickman is the General Manager of Assets for Genesis Energy. She concedes the relationship with Ngāti Rangi is difficult. But Genesis takes their contractual agreements seriously and is making allowances for the cultural and spiritual aspirations of Ngāti Rangi.
They're very clear that their long-term views are for there to be an alternative to the Tongariro power scheme. For now though, we're looking at options that we can, I guess, strike that balance between the importance of the power scheme for electricity generation while still recognising in some way some of those values to Ngāti Rangi as well.
As part of the agreement, Genesis meets with Ngāti Rangi regularly, allows their hydrologists to assist the tribe to develop its water science and compensated them. Neither group would tell us how much money Ngāti Rangi received.
The agreement with Genesis isn't ideal. No, it's a pragmatic approach to trying to improve the health of our waterways and move forward.
Genesis is willing to address issues over spiritual, cultural and fisheries values.
Certainly there's an opportunity to look at additional flow in those rivers where it's required to address some of those issues.
But it won't return the water in full.
Every bit of water is important from a generation perspective. The schemes have been designed and investment has been made in power stations right through the Tongariro and Waikato river chain based on that water. And so I guess there's also a perspective from a commercial side of things that every drop of water that doesn't go through those power schemes potentially undermines bit by bit the viability of those assets too. So we have to take that into account.
Do you think you've got enough from Genesis?
No. You can never get enough from any of the takers, any of the users of our awa, because ideally our awa would be flowing in their natural state.
Controversially, Genesis is up for sale. The government's planning to sell off its state-owned energy companies, including Genesis. Both parties are confident it won't affect their agreement.
Genesis is sold off, will it affect the agreement with Ngāti Rangi?
Well, look, the agreements that we have with Ngāti Rangi and others are enduring, regardless of who owns us.
We have a legally binding agreement, so the government will still stay as a majority shareholder. That shouldn't affect our legally binding agreement.
Ngāti Rangi is also taking a pragmatic approach to the asset sales.
Ngāti Rangi, like many other tribes, have objected to the asset sales, and in the same breath the government are going to sell shares. So we need to continue to have discussions as Ngāti Rangi as to whether we choose to purchase shares.
He's clear where Ngāti Rangi stands on water ownership.
The awa own us, really. We don't own the water. We have a relationship that has been with us for centuries in a traditional context. In a modern context, if we're forced to go that way, then we may have to say in the future that we do own the water.
Ngāti Rangi has been cut off from its waterways since the land was confiscated early last century to be used for the Crown's forests and armed forces, then again when the aqueduct was built.
Hydroelectricity generation has its place, but it needs to be in a sustainable way that doesn't destroy a river.
Ngāti Rangi will continue to develop ways to reconnect natural water flows south from the mountain to the sea.
Tribal entities will change, governments will change, power companies will change, but there are two constants. One, ka rere tonu te wai, and two, ka no o tonu ngā tangata whenua, ki konei. We are the river, and the river is us. We are the land, and the land is us. We are the mountain, and the mountain is us.